Good morning, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpa coming to you from beautiful Jack's Beach. And this morning, we're going to be in chapter 39 of Genesis. We're going to be looking at Joseph and Potiphar's wife. And I've mentioned that I'm not a big Joseph fan. He's a legitimate hero in the Bible. In fact, one of the things I noticed in the Bible is that it shows its heroes as real people. And for the most part, that means their failings. But Joseph, he's like a goody two-shoes. He's a tattletale. Oh, Daddy, this is what happened. Your other sons, blah, 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 blah. And I guess that's his downfall. So each one of us has something different that we can put up with. And I just find it difficult to put up with Joseph and his multicolored rainbow tunic, as they call it in this version. Okay. Now, Joseph had been brought down to Egypt. And if you remember, that's what happened when they sold him into slavery. Well, they sold him, into slavery. They sold him to these Ishmaelites or Midianites. They go back and forth calling them both of those things. And so now we're going to pick up the story when he's in Egypt. An Egyptian named Potiphar, an official of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, purchased him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him there. The Lord was with Joseph. He was successful and lived in the house of his Egyptian master. His master observed that the Lord was with him and that the Lord made everything he was doing successful. So this begs the question, did he tell them about the Lord? And he must have. He must have said, well, our people worship the God Yahweh. And this is why the God Yahweh is so much different than all the gods that you guys worship here in Egypt. So Joseph found favor in his sight and became his personal attendant. Potiphar appointed Joseph overseer of his household and put him in charge of everything he owned. From the time Potiphar appointed him over his household and over all that he owned, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's household for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on everything that he had, both in his house and in his fields. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. He gave no thought to anything except the food he ate. So he just said, you got the whole thing, Joseph. And a lot of these guys were like this. There were, the one that I can think of is Abraham's servant. I can't remember his name right now. I think it was somebody of Damascus that he put everything into his hands. Now Joseph was well built and good looking. Soon after these things, so soon after he was put into charge of everything, we see that the wife is going to start checking him out because he's handsome. Soon after these things, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, have sex with me. And it's funny, like men and women are different. That's something that you could say to a man and he might go, sure. But if you said it like that to a woman, she would say, you know what, you need to buy me dinner and talk to me. But he refused, saying to his master's wife, look, my master does not give any thought to his household with me here, and everything that he owns he has put into my care. There is no one greater in this household than I am. He has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. So how could I do such a great evil and sin against God? Even though she continued to speak to Joseph day after day, he did not respond to her invitation to have sex with her. Well, because he's a goody two-shoes. Trust me, 99 out of 100 guys are at least going to go, hey, I'm flattered, but I can't do it. But he takes the moral high ground because he's Joseph. Even though she continued to speak to Joseph day after day, he did not respond to her invitation to have sex with her. One day he went into the house to do his work when none of the household servants were there in the house. She grabbed him by his outer garment, saying, have sex with me. But he left his outer garment in her hand and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his outer garment in her hand and had run outside, so it says outer garment, but it might be that he's naked at this point in time. It might have been the only garment he had on. She called for her household servants and said to them, see, my husband brought in a Hebrew man to us to humiliate us. He tried to have sex with me, but I screamed loudly. When he heard me raise my voice and scream, he left his outer garment beside me and ran outside. So she's pretending that it wasn't her that was trying to have sex with him. It was him that was trying to have sex with her, and that she's the moral person, and he's a rapist. So she laid his outer garment beside her until his master came home. This is what she said to him. That Hebrew slave you brought to us tried to humiliate me, but when I raised my voice and screamed, he left his outer garment and ran outside. So I'm sure she's standing there with the garment in her hand, and he knows it's Joseph. So he sees Joseph every day wearing that thing. I don't think these folks had a lot of costume changes back in the day. When his master heard his wife say, this is the way your slave treated me, he became furious. And maybe he wasn't just furious at Joseph. The leopard doesn't change its spots. I'm sure this isn't the first time that his wife had gotten involved in some kind of scheme involving the opposite sex. Joseph's master took him and threw him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. So he was there in that prison. And the king is Pharaoh, king of Egypt. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him kindness. And that's the thing about God. Like we go, hey, I'm in prison, this sucks. And God might be going, you know what, you're exactly where I want you to be. He granted him favor in the sight of the prison warden. The warden put all the prisoners under Joseph's care. He was in charge of whatever they were doing. The did not concern himself with anything that was in Joseph's care, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he was doing, the Lord was making successful. So now we're going to go on to chapter 40 in Genesis. And in chapter 40, we're going to see the cupbearer and the baker and some dreams. And we're going to start to get into a whole series of chapters that are going to lead up to the children of Israel winding up in Mizraim, in Egypt, in the land of your ancestors, Aleph. Until then, peace out.